When it comes to getting out the vote, Maine breaks its own records for voter turnout year after year.
We want to make sure that the people who are voting are citizens of the state of Maine.
But now there's a push to change how we vote, not only to require a voter ID, but other changes that would affect absentee voting in Maine, with opponents fearing question 1 would erect new and unnecessary barriers to voting.
To put this bogus suggestion that these measures will help, no, they will just make it harder for many people.
But supporters of question 1 insist it's not about making it harder to vote, but harder to cheat.
We're going to end mail-in voting. It's time that the Republicans get tough and stop it.
It's a debate that also touches on fears and claims of voter fraud. The evidence suggests there is no widespread voter fraud.
They're just trying to make it difficult for people to vote.
While others insist low risk is not no risk. But there is one thing on which both sides agree, that at some level, democracy is at stake. Tonight we have a panel of guests ready to discuss, debate, and inform. It's a special Your Voice, Your Future town hall on statewide question 1, and it starts right now. Hello and welcome. I'm Greg Lagerquist, your moderator tonight, and over the next half hour, we're going to be confident you're going to hear and learn what you need to make an informed decision on statewide question 1. We have an outstanding panel of guests. 2 people from the yes side, 2 people from the no side. Let's go and meet them quickly right now. Left to right, as you see them at home, we have Alex Titcomb. He is an organizer for the Yes on One campaign. We also have Laura Libby. She's a state representative representing Minot and part of Auburn as well, also on the yes side. And on the no on one side, we have David Farmer. He's an organizer with No on One. And last but certainly not least, we have Ann Luther. She's a board member with the League of Women Voters right here in the state of Maine. A warm welcome to all of you tonight. Before we hear from all of you, we're going to hear a lot from them, we want to show you the question as you'll see it on the ballot this November. And it's a long one, which is part of what we're going to discuss here tonight. Here it is. Do you want to change Maine election laws to eliminate 2 days of absentee voting, prohibit requests for absentee ballots by phone or family members, and ongoing absentee voter status for seniors and people with disabilities, ban prepaid postage on absentee ballot return envelopes, limit the number of drop boxes, require voters to show certain photo ID before voting, and make other changes to our elections? So a lot to unpack just in the wording of the question alone right there. But first, for the folks at home, we don't have a formal countdown clock like a candidates debate, but we are aware of time. We want to keep things moving, and we want to be aware of people having an equal chance to get their points out. So in the interest of fairness and time, we may interrupt and keep things moving, but not exactly a formal candidates debate. So, all right, that's enough of a preamble. Let's get started. We want to start with maybe the question we just talked about. There was actually an icebreaker that we prepared here just to kind of get things flowing. I want to hear from each of you first, maybe just a minute or less. Yes or no on question 1, and what's your big reason why? Maybe your elevator speech. Let's start with Alex Titcomb on the yes side. Yes or no on question 1, and why?
Absolutely a yes, because Maine citizens have wanted this for a long time. The politicians in Augusta have continually voted it down, so that we got hundreds of volunteers to collect the signatures, a historic amount of signatures, 170,000 Mainers signed on saying they want more secure elections for Maine.
Thank you very much. Laura Libby, same question to you, please.
Thank you so much. I am an absolute firm yes, and that's because passing yes on 1 is going to strengthen and secure our elections here in Maine, both in-person and absentee voting by requiring voter ID. Now, of course, absentee voting will still be completely available. Folks can request online, in person, or through the mail. But every voter, absentee or in person, can rest assured that their vote counts and that their voice is heard.
All right, thank you very much. And let's go to the no side now. David Farmer, the same question. Yes or no on 1, and why?
Well, Greg, first, thank you for having us here tonight on this important issue. I am an absolute no. Question 1 is a direct attack on absentee voting in Maine. 45% of Maine voters in the last election used absentee voting to cast their ballot. 60% of seniors, folks over 65, used absentee voting to cast their ballot. If question 1 passes, it will make it harder for thousands of people to vote, to participate. Maine's elections are safe and secure, and we don't need these added regulations on Election Day.
All right, thank you very much. And Ann Luther, same question to you. Yes or no?
I'm a no. This is going to affect every eligible voter. Maine has the highest voter participation in the country. Some years in the top 5 very consistently. This is going to affect every eligible voter, but it's going to fall hardest on our older citizens, on people with disabilities, on people working 2 jobs and running their soccer camps around. The people who are the busiest and have the least time are going to be the most affected, and we don't need this.
Let's go ahead and dive into some of the things you actually just started talking about. There was actually a lawsuit around the wording of the question. I think I alluded to that just a moment ago. Obviously, one side is very focused on the voter ID part of this. The other side very focused on pretty much everything else. So let's go ahead and start. Maybe we'll start with Ann Luther and we'll work our way back. And by the way, jump in whenever you want without interrupting. But if you'd like to make a point, please talk to each other. And I'll say as little as I need to. But Ann Luther, let's start with you. Is it fair to think of this as much more than just voter ID, or is that still the heart of it?
Look, this is a big bill. It's got 28 provisions in it. 85% of those provisions have to do not with ID, but with absentee voting. A very small portion of this bill is really talking about the photo ID bill. This is really a bill about absentee voting. 85% of the bill has to do with that.
Laura, you want to respond?
Just jump in there and say, you know, yes, there is a great deal in this about absentee voting, but by necessity, because we do have a lot of Mainers who vote via absentee, 40+%. And so, of course, it would be irrelevant to pass legislation that puts voter ID in place for in-person voting and doesn't put it in place for absentee. So there are provisions regarding absentee. We want to make sure that folks, whether they're voting in person or absentee, can feel that their vote is secure. And so all of the changes regarding absentee speak to that, making sure that folks can still access it easily and that they can vote via absentee and in person with proof of ID.
David, I see you shaking your head.
See, one of the key elements of this proposal reduces the time period in which you can request an absentee ballot by 7 days. Now that takes away 2 in-person absentee days, Wednesday and Thursday, 2 of the most popular days that people use to vote early. But it also creates a very sneaky change in law. And I'll tell just a quick story about it. In 2012, I was at work and I got a call on election day from my wife. She was at the hospital in the emergency room. I rushed over as you would. I got to her. I rushed in and I said, "Are you okay? What's going on?" She told me. And then the third question I asked was, "Have you voted?" It was election day after all. And I know that I didn't win Husband of the Year that year for that, but she had voted. If she had not, we could have gotten her an absentee ballot that day to make sure her voice was registered, that her vote counted. Under the changes proposed by question 1, that is no longer possible. It says no later than 7 days before Election Day. So it takes out all 7 of those days for instances like that and for early in-person absentee voting.
Alex, let's go to you. Give you a chance to maybe respond to some of what he said as well. He specifically used the word sneaky changes in there. How do you feel about that?
Well, what I know is Shanna Bellows weaponized the ballot question process, making it the longest in state history for Citizens Initiative. The central point is the requirement of a voter ID to cast a ballot, whether that's in-person ballot or an absentee ballot. That's what the initiative is about. Unfortunately, the Secretary of State's shenanigans and the opposition campaign is trying to change it and quite frankly lie to the Maine people that absentee ballots are going away, and that's a 100% lie. It's going to make it safer to vote absentee.
Well, did you want to respond to the specifics, though, about narrowing? Why narrow, I guess, the number of days available to get an absentee ballot?
So, once again, the ballot question, in the Shanna Bellows words, says eliminate 2 days. Our proposal is not eliminating 2 days. We're shifting the deadline from the Thursday before election to the Tuesday before election. There could still be 30 days of absentee early voting because the ballots could be sent to the secretary or the individual towns, and they can start voting as soon as the clerks have those ballots. So there's nothing sneaky about it. It prolongs the mail delivery service so that we can make sure that ballots get out and back to the town office before 8 p.m. on election day. Common sense change. Mainers support it.
Does it take 7 days out in that time period, that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday of election day, that you can no longer request an absentee ballot?
To be clear, this is a provision that ensures that Maine people will get their ballots in. We all know.
Hold on a second, Ann, just one moment, please. Let's let Laura Levine send it to you, please.
We all know that the Postal Service is not always reliable these days. And if folks request an absentee ballot on Thursday and it doesn't get to them until Monday and they mail back on Tuesday, we want to be sure their vote counts. And so that deadline is moved back intentionally for several reasons. One, to ensure that folks can be 100% sure that their ballot is going to get in and it's going to be counted. And also to ensure that our clerks, who work so hard to prepare for our elections, have the time that they need to be ready for folks to come and vote on Election Day. And so this shifting back of 2 days is a common sense change that will streamline the process for both folks to be assured that their vote will get in and our clerks to do their very important work.
So you're saying the whole window could still be the 30 days,
Absolutely.
for example, it's just up
There's
to the clerks?
No reason that the ballots can't be sent out. In fact, in 2024, many towns started sending out absentee ballots well before that 30 days. Folks started voting, and voting was longer than 30 days already.
And I find out on Thursday that I have to work a double shift on Election Day, can I go request an absentee ballot under question 1?
David, I recommend that everyone, I voted the first day that voting was allowed, which was October 6th. I went to the polls and I voted. I urge every Maine voter to go to the polls and vote early, to be sure that you bank your vote and that you can know that your voice has been heard and your vote has been registered.
I think, Ann, you wanted to jump in a moment ago.
I'm just going to say the answer to some of these questions is clear. You cannot get an absentee ballot after that Tuesday. You can no longer request an absentee ballot on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Monday before Election Day. And whether the mail doesn't come into it, those ballots could have been voted in person at the clerk's office. You will no longer be able to do that under this law.
And if I can follow up with you too, Ann, you mentioned a moment ago, I think in your initial icebreaker answer, you're concerned about people with disabilities. What specifically are you concerned about?
Well, so, I mean, let's just think about 28 provisions in this bill. 85% of them have to do with absentee voting. Every single one of them has to do with making voting harder. And so for people who are already overcoming some obstacles in order to get to the polls or to get their absentee ballot, this is like a death by 1,000 cuts because it just makes it harder at every single step of the way. Whether you're facing a disability, whether you're an older person, whether you lack transportation, whether you're just busy working 2 jobs, each one of these little changes makes it just that much harder to overcome those challenges to get your ballot cast. So I just think this is going to affect everybody, and it's going to affect people who have particular challenges more than others.
When do you want to respond to that specifically? Alex, did you?
Sure. I agree that this would impact every voter, right? Every ballot is going to require a presentation of a photo voter ID. So every voter that wants to vote will be impacted. That is why we're encouraging everyone to vote yes on 1. In regards to the elders or the people with disabilities, the opposition campaign is fear-mongering. They're using this segment of population and trying to scare them away from that they are not going to be capable of voting. And I just don't buy it. Maine people are strong. Maine people have a strong work ethic, independent. They'll be able to figure out how to obtain an ID if they currently do not have one. Secretary of State's office, the campaigns, parties, nonprofits like the folks opposing us have an interest of getting them IDs so they vote.
Any more response on this? Let's move another topic here. We've obviously talked a lot about the absentee ballots, and certainly, and we can get back into that as well in a moment. But let's get to the heart of the voter ID part of this as well. I know 36 states right now actually have some form of voter ID, whether it be a picture ID, a strong requirement, or others can get. I think neighboring New Hampshire, for example, has a system. If you don't have a photo ID, you can bring an affidavit or have someone sign an affidavit, and they'll take a photo of you there just in case an issue comes up later. But the point is, 36 states have this, so it seems like it's more common than not at this point in America to require an ID. Maybe let's start with you, David Farmer. Specifically, when it comes to voter IDs, is there a concern about requiring it at this point in the state of Maine when so many other states are already doing it?
Well, question 1 is one of the most restrictive voter ID laws in the country. It ignores legitimate IDs from people in the state. Student IDs are not available to be able to use. Tribal IDs are not available. And the provisions of the photo ID, they erect such burdens as requiring you to include a photocopy of your driver's license or ID card in with your absentee ballot and with your absentee ballot request. You can also fill in your driver's license number with that as well. But imagine they're asking you to send in a copy of your photo ID. What is the value of a copy of your ID if you're not there to look at it? I mean, it's just a hurdle upon hurdle to disqualify more and more ballots so that fewer people get to participate in elections.
Did somebody on the yes side want to respond?
Yeah, I think the benefit of sending in a photocopy, if that's what the voter chooses to do, because of course they can either send in a photocopy or they can simply jot down the numbers from their ID on the ballot request form or on the online request form, however they choose to do that. I think the benefit is obvious, right? Someone else probably does not have access to your ID. And these provisions regarding absentee and in-person voting are there for a reason, to ensure that every single person is required to show ID. Maine has 40% of the voting population voting via absentee. And so again, I would reiterate that it lacks value to pass voter ID simply for in-person when that leaves out almost 50% of the population. And we want everyone to know that our elections are strong and secure and that they can count on their vote being counted.
Yeah, sure, yes.
Do a little fact check on this. You said 36 states have voter ID, and that is actually true. Only 7 states have what we would call a strict photo ID, which this is. Only 1 state, Ohio, has a law that's as strict as this. Even Texas's law is a little more generous than this because they take one form of ID that this law does not take. This would be the strictest form of photo ID in the country, and it would eliminate a lot of people who are going to have trouble getting that form of ID.
Alex, would you like to respond?
I'd love to. Maine is a leader in elections, right? We've talked about it. It was in the clip this, when you showed the beginning. Let's continue to be a leader in the nation in regards to our democratic process in voting and secure. So we're proud of our voter ID requirement in question 1 and ask every voter to vote yes, so that Maine can continue to lead, be strong on elections, defend every ballot, every voice. That is what democracy is about.
Did you want to respond on the
Voter ID is an unnecessary hurdle that places a time tax on people to get an ID, to follow these strenuous and onerous rules to overcome these hurdles to vote. And it's not voter ID by itself. If the proponents of question 1 had wanted a voter ID bill, they could have had a voter ID bill. But they're also eliminating multiple drop boxes around the state, including one in Portland where I live. They're eliminating, as I said, 7 days when you can request an absentee ballot. You won't be able to call your clerk anymore and request an absentee ballot by the telephone. These are real restrictions on voting accessibility issues that Maine people use. And it is that accessibility is why our voter participation is so high.
We did do some research, by the way, if I could mention it for the folks at home. In case you're wondering, of the top 10 states for voter turnout, 5 of them have some form of voter ID, 5 of them don't. So I don't know if we can learn anything specific from that, but those that have it are New Hampshire, Virginia, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Colorado, I believe. And those without in the top 10 are Maine, Vermont, Oregon, Minnesota, and Pennsylvania. So I don't know that there's anything earth-shattering in that data, but it's interesting to note that it doesn't seem to tilt one way or the other when it comes to requiring a voter ID and maybe necessarily suppressing the turnout. Is that a concern, though? Although I will note that when only 13 states don't have voter ID of any kind, and 5 of those are in the top 10, I guess you could draw some sort of statistical inference there. But I just wanted the folks at home to know that as an interesting little fact. So do you think that, let's just put a bow on this part of the conversation. Ann, let's start with you. Do you think at some level a voter ID is a barrier to people voting, and why?
I don't think we need a photo ID. We've got perfectly safe and secure elections right now. We have a proof of identity and proof of residency when you register to vote. The need to produce that and reproduce it every single time you vote is a totally unnecessary red herring that's just making it harder for people to vote. No.
Laurel.
Yeah, I would say, first of all, they don't have to prove their identity when they register. They simply have to bring a utility bill. It does not have a photo ID attached to it. Could bring 2 pieces of paper that do not have photographic ID to verify their residence. So that's different from a photo voter ID. So I want to make that distinction really clear. At no point in the voting process here in Maine is a photo ID required. So that being said, I think you know, over 170,000 Maine people signed the petition to put this on the ballot. That is a mandate from Maine people, which means that they don't see it as a burden. They see it as a way to ensure that our elections are strong and secure. And when you're talking about probably almost half of the folks who are anticipated to turn out for this election, 170,000 is a large number of our voters. So I think that makes it really clear what Maine people think about it.
David, you wanted to respond?
Just two quick things. It is absolutely a burden, but the voter suppression elements are in the drastic changes that are being made to our absentee voter system. One of your colleagues, Joyce Maker, Republican from Washington County, she posted on Facebook the other day. She signed the petition. She was one of the 170,000 folks who signed. And she said if she had realized all the other elements that are in it, she wouldn't have signed it. And she urged people in her community to vote no.
And Alex, did you want to respond to that specifically, or we can move on if you wish?
We can move on.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about this, because sort of implied in a lot of this conversation is the whole idea of voter fraud somehow occurring out there. We've heard from secretaries of state, not just Maine's, but actually other Republicans, Democrats in other states, prior secretaries of state here in the state of Maine have said that they don't think it's a widespread problem, that there hasn't been proof of widespread voter fraud. So Alex, let's start with you on that. Is this implied that you think that this is a danger? But where's the data if it is?
This is not a response to any problem or voter fraud or illegal activities. This is all about to make our elections safer, stronger, more transparent, increase accountability, yes, for in-person, but more importantly, for absentee votes. And it seems like the Democrats, at least the politicians, and the opposition campaign are very freaked out about the changes to absentee voting. And we just ask why.
David, do you want to respond?
Absolutely, because it will mean thousands of Maine people won't be able to vote. Earlier this year, supporters of Question 1 accused 51 Maine people of voting illegally or inappropriately. They were investigated and they were all cleared. Maine's elections are safe and secure, and Question 1 is about making sure fewer people vote, and that's why we're urging a no vote on it.
And I see, go ahead, Laurel, and then we'll go to Ann.
Look, there have been recent events. Let's talk about Shenna Bellows' Amazon ballots that make people feel very insecure about our elections and that shatter their confidence. And so it is imperative upon us, especially with this mandate from Maine people who worked so hard to get this on the ballot, that we do pass voter ID, that we vote yes on one and secure our elections so that Maine people can walk into the polling booth or sit at their counter at home and fill out their ballots and feel 100% confident, have trust in their elections, and know that they are strong and secure. This is a policy that will give that confidence to Maine people. It does make minor changes to the absentee, and it's interesting to hear the opposition make hay out of a small change, like not being able to call and request your absentee ballot. You know what you can do, Greg? You can call your town office and you can request an absentee ballot request form. That is very easy to do, and folks can still do that.
And
that's a perfect example, though. You can add another step. Like today, you can call your clerk and get an absentee ballot. Now you can call and get the paperwork to get an absentee ballot. So instead of it being pretty easy and direct, it's now just another layer of red tape that you have to go through in order to cast your vote. I think Maine people actually do have confidence in their elections right now. They trust their clerks. Their clerks are among the most trusted public officials in the state. People believe that their elections are conducted safely and securely. They go to the polls, they meet their neighbors, they cast their ballot. If you ever want to find out what's going on in an election, I encourage you to become an election worker. These are your friends and neighbors. There is no way there's shenanigans going on there because you're there with your neighbors and friends doing the thing. If you want to be an election observer or an election worker, you can have confidence, and I think our people do have confidence that our elections are run safely and securely. And oh, by the way, those ballots in the Amazon box could never have been cast. That's because we have safe, secure, resilient procedures to make sure that even when something like that does go wrong, those ballots could never have been cast.
It is important to note that those 250 ballots, for those who may not have heard the story, and I think most people have heard the story by now, you do need to have corresponding voter information for those ballots to be cast, but obviously there's an ongoing investigation at the state and federal level now looking into these as well. I want to get some closing thoughts though from everyone. This has gone fast, as it always does. I do want to point out one thing for the viewers though. there was a Gallup poll last October that shows that voters overwhelmingly in a vacuum support the idea of voter ID. They also overwhelmingly support the idea of early voting and absentee voting. So we're kind of colliding here a little bit when it comes to what people sort of want, and as part of this interesting discussion. Let's get some closing thoughts. Ann, let's go ahead and start with you.
It's a big bill. 85% of this bill is about absentee voting. There are many, many changes in it. I encourage people to read the bill. This is going to affect many, many of our voters, and it's an infringement on absentee voting. It's a direct attack on absentee voting, which Maine people use all the time and really like.
And David, let's go here for you as well. Your
Yeah,
sort of closing thoughts.
Maine's elections are safe and secure. I think that if voters walk into the voting booth and they read the question and they see all the elements that are included in this 11-page proposal, they will recognize that it's a trap. It's a wolf in sheep's clothing. And I would encourage people, as Ann did, to read the proposal themselves, read the question themselves, and then make their own decision. I trust Maine voters will stand up and protect our absentee voting system.
All right, thank you very much. Laura Libby, to you as well, please.
I agree. When folks read the legislation, they'll have confidence to vote yes on one. They can do so at voteridforme.com, where we have all the information about this ballot initiative. You know, folks can vote yes on one and feel confident that in-person and absentee voting is going to be strengthened and be more secure, that they'll still be able to access absentee voting easily by making an online request, requesting their ballot in person or through the mail, and then can rest easy that their voice is heard and that their vote is registered.
Thank you very much. And Alex Titcomb, we'll end the discussion here with you, please.
All right, yeah. Well, I just asked the Maine people not to be overcome by fear-mongering on the opposition campaign or Shenna Bellows in regards to question 1. Vote yes on 1 to secure our elections, to make it stronger, to make it more transparent. And once again, I just urge you to look into the future. This is about protecting our elections for years and decades to come. About my kids' vote, your kids' vote, or your grandkids' vote, and making sure that America stays America. Vote yes.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you to all 4 of our panelists. This has been, I hope, very, very informative for our viewers at home. We do want to encourage everyone, if you've missed any part of this debate, maybe you tuned in later or you'd like to watch it again, it's going to be available online. You can scan the QR code actually right there on your screen right now. Take you right to this on our YouTube page. There it goes. And of course, stay with CBS 13. We have complete election coverage right from now, right through Election Day. And again, a lot of folks already voting because of absentee voting and early voting, but Election Day is 3 weeks from today. That's November 4th. November 4th is Election Day. And in the meantime, thank you so much for tuning in this evening for our special Your Voice, Your Future Town Hall. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you back here over on Fox 23 at 10 and CBS 13 News at 11.